This is a public service.
What is going on, everybody? I just wanted to come on here and give some context to today's video. What we're going to get into is an FDLE hearing where we've got some officials going back and forth about compliance on a couple forms and how they see a pattern of forms being submitted on the record that are incorrect, and there seems to be some concern that that incorrect things are being put on the record, and then there seems to be some lack of concern about this. So this happened on February 15th. James Madison Audits and I went down to some disciplinary hearings that FDLE was putting on, and after the disciplinary hearings, this started. And what they're talking about is a couple forms that we're actually kind of familiar with because we've just been dealing with this over in Daytona Beach Shores with the Michael Schoenbrod case. So what we have here is a Form 61, and this is an affidavit of separation. It is filled out by the Chief of Police under penalty of perjury. Section 943.1392 Florida statute requires the execution of affidavit of separation by employee agency in case of officer separation. And warning: intentional false execution of this affidavit of separation constitutes a misdemeanor in the second degree. So filling this form out incorrectly constitutes a misdemeanor in the second degree. This was filled out on October 2nd, 2023. And it looks like here that it was a voluntary separation not involving any misconduct. So this guy must have been squeaky clean. If we come over on the right hand side of this form, we see some further designations. So we've got a voluntary separation or retirement while being investigated under section 943.13 subsection 4, or a moral character violation. And the same thing for voluntary separation in lieu of termination. So these are things that they're every step of the investigation, right? They're during the investigation, and then it's before the penalty phase, right? Because it's either you separate or it's in lieu of termination. So this is, or terminated for the violation of the section. So this is every phase of the investigation is encompassed inside of these three options. We've got during the investigation, we have in lieu of separation, so that's just before the punishment phase, and then we have the punishment phase of the investigation. So just to try to paint the picture here. So again, this is Form 61, and let's take a look at form. But actually, before we move on, let's just refresh ourselves that the chief did mark down on this one voluntary separation not involving any misconduct. So again, Schoenbrod, he must have really been a stand-up guy. Okay, so let's come over to this Form 78. And Form 78 is the internal investigation report submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And this investigation was actually conducted by Port Orange Police Department, their internal affairs. What I'll do is I'll link all these documents down in the description so you guys can read. I think it's a 28-page IA investigation. If there's some interest, I'll gladly put up the audio interviews that were conducted for this IA. But as we can see here, we've got a violation allegation, we've got a commission of a felony sustained, and we've got altering a public record sustained. So we've got agency disposition, sustained violation of section 943.13-4. So, that sounds like that statute that they mentioned the perjury about, I feel like. So we'll have to take a look at that. But in either case, that box is checked off. That is checked off there. It is a sustained commission of a felony and altering a public record. So I don't, the date of the internal investigation was completed on 9/29, and the chief signed this one off and sent it to FDLE on 10/5. So we've got a problem where we're letting Michael Schoenbrod turn into one of those gypsy cops. I've already heard that he's applied to the Flagler County Sheriff's Department. I'm not sure what the disposition of any of that is, but we need these forms to be filled out properly. The officer, the lieutenant, committed a felony, and then he destroyed public records to cover up his felony. I'm sorry, he altered public records. He altered them. I'm not sure what the difference between destroying a public record and altering it is, but apparently he has only altered it. But we need to expect more here. So penalty of perjury on this Form 61, Chief. It doesn't look good, but let's hear what FDLE has to say about it, and then I have an interview with a FDLE investigator. So it's a pretty good sequence here, talking about accountability and how the Florida Department of Law Enforcement assists chiefs in kind of skating the whole accountability. It's all an accountability ruse. So enjoy. And then I don't want to forget, there is also attached in here the state attorney's disciplinary recommendation, which I imagine nobody's going to be shocked to hear that they did not recommend charges for the lieutenant on this. So looks like some more blue line privilege, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments.
Probably should not have been voluntary separation, which would
This is a public service.
They resigned while under investigation or a moral character disposition in ATMS. Numerous times we have cases in front of the commission for various records, applications, other forms that are filled out, and somebody comes from another state, their proper disposition codes when they go to report for their new place for duty. And I think we just really need to look at some of that. I don't know, I've talked to FDLE staff in the past, they can say that it's done at the agency level and they don't have a lot of control over it, but I think when there's glaring errors like that, that somebody probably should call back to the agency to make sure that the ATMS code was properly entered and not just robotically entered or for some other default mechanism got put in, because the 61 form is signed under perjury of law. So when you do have some of these glaring ones where in the IA it says that they resigned while under investigation, they were terminated, they resigned in lieu of termination, and there's really not a lot of dispute, that ATMS should match to whatever the agency actually turns in. And those are my comments for those items.
Commissioner Murphy?
First of all, I appreciate what FDLE staff does, and if you look over there, the same lawyer that was there last time is not there this time. I mean, they're very short. I get what you're saying, you're not wrong, but they're very short staffed and they're working miracles over there, and I'm very hesitant to add something else for them to do. I do understand what you're saying, but that's the only thing I want to say about that. They're very short staffed, and I get they're working hard over there.
Mr. Bennett?
To his point, I will tell you that I don't know that it's their responsibility. I believe it's the responsibility of the chiefs and the sheriffs. And the only thing I may suggest, it seems as though a lot of executives don't recognize the proper box to check and the ramifications. Some of them don't even check boxes. They don't even send investigations, and I don't know that it's purposeful. Sometimes I think it's ignorant, and when I hear about those occasions, I educate them. Perhaps at the next Florida Police Chiefs Association conference, at the Florida Sheriffs, we have FDLE do at the opening session, right after that, do a quick 30-minute educational session to remind them of their obligation, and it's really an obligation to each other to make sure that we're giving good information when these folks are trading back and forth. Because I don't know that it's purposeful. I think there's a lot of folks out there that make these decisions that don't know exactly what boxes they should check sometimes. That's all.
Chief Hopkins, did you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, very valid points. We see this quite a bit, and what's, glaring, that's subjective. We see it all the time. We talk to the IA investigators. In a lot of cases, the agency administrators, our direction and our guidance is always, you have to be able to stand behind what you put in there. We don't get into questioning that. Commissioner Murphy's point, yes, that would put us in a very awkward posture trying to run these down and determine if that's what they meant. We do bring that out in the many workshops we do. We've done it with the Police Chiefs Association. I'm not sure that we've done it with the Sheriff's Association lately, but we do a multitude of these workshops. We just came off, we're going to start another group in the next 6 months as well. So we do our best to educate, provide guidance, but unfortunately we do see things, and it's not that we're remiss in these. Our goal is to get these cases to, if that looks like a voluntary separation at ATMS, we see that as well, and it's oftentimes a big question mark, but our goal is to get the case before you and let you dispose of that as you see fit. So that's what we're aiming at.
Okay. Commissioner Bates?
Just a follow-up. So what I'm getting is the consensus of the commission is to accept errored records into ATMS. And I don't think that should be our position. I think our position should be that we need accurate records into ATMS. And I don't know if we don't speak up at this point, then who speaks up for this? Who then actually looks into ATMS to ensure that the records in ATMS are accurate?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we as well are concerned with the accuracy of what's in ATMS, but again, I go back to the agency. We're not a party to, there's arbitration agreements that take place, there's a multitude of reasons why that ends up. In all honesty, agencies let individuals separate on charges that come before this commission as a voluntary separation. I don't know that we've got the ability as commission staff to call those into question. And again, working with the limited number of staff that we have, that would be a monumental task to ask there. But it's not that we don't see it, but our goal is to get, again, I reiterate, get the cases in front of it.
Okay. Everybody on board with clear with the message?
No other thoughts?
Okay, if we don't have any other polls, we can move the consent agenda. Oh, we got a comment? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, that's all right. I realize this is probably comments and you guys aren't asking for a back and forth, but sorry about that. I'd rather not give up my Fourth Amendment rights to speak. Was it Commissioner Bage?
Yes.
He raised the issue of the Form 68, is it? 61, and there's a Form 78 also. What is the recourse for the people, for the public, when you guys encounter one of these forms that is mismarked?
The the commission's not going to be answering questions from the public. They're here to hear any comments. If you have questions, you need to direct them towards staff.
Okay. And what was your name? Just so I could direct it.
I prefer not to give my name.
Okay.
My name is Nick Cox. I'm a statewide prosecutor.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So on the forms, though, I realize and I accept the issues when it's an accident, when a chief accidentally puts down the wrong thing. But what happens when it's done intentionally? What's done when a chief intentionally puts down that this person voluntarily separated for something not involving misconduct, when clearly there's issues where they separate because of misconduct in order to try to not get in front of this hearing board, maybe? I'm not sure, but there has to be a recourse for the public. There has to be some recourse when these forms are filled out wrong, because I take your point that they sign under penalty of perjury, but I don't see any chiefs being charged for perjury when these forms are misfilled out, and it's chilling. So I appreciate your time, gentlemen and ladies.
I believe this is addressed to staff. I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I got a motion from Commissioner Murphy to adjourn.
Appreciate your patience.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you even speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. You heard the comments in there with it.
And you were the one making the counter argument, or you were the one standing on the podium, right?
Just laying it out,
Okay.
and quite honestly, we see that where the separations come in. The statute's clear that it is the responsibility of the employing agency to ensure the integrity of that form, and there's other forms as well, but specifically the separation.
61 and 78.
61,
seem to be the two
61
most
is the
important ones, right?
separation form, and the 78 is the internal investigative report. So both of those, the employing agency is tasked with the integrity of those. We do see ones that come into us where it's a moral character case that gets presented to the commission that has voluntary separation. And we do get calls from agencies, internal affairs investigators, agency administrators asking us, hey, what should this form say? The only thing we can do is provide guidance to them and remind them, reiterate to them that it is their responsibility to make sure that that form is accurate. And they'll outline scenarios a lot of times, and we'll tell them, it appears what you're saying would be violation of moral character. You might want to look, you've seen the form, it's got categories for moral character violations.
Yeah.
You know, based on what you're telling me, this is what it appears to be. But again, I'm not the one signing those forms. Those are the agency heads doing that. So they are tasked with being responsible for that. And you've seen the form again. It does say it's a misdemeanor if it's falsified.
Yeah, so I mean, is there, realistically speaking, is there recourse from somebody from the public? Because I'm not sure if, how, there's tons of these cases, so
Sure,
I'm not sure if you're even familiar with Show and Broad out of South Daytona Beach Shores.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, so he had his I get 78 and 61 mixed up, but he filled out his 61, I believe, as voluntarily separate and without, and I think that means, the one he marked says that he wasn't under investigation or had nothing to do with. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but and he absolutely resigned because he was being accused of a quite heinous crime with his children.
Right.
And then the chief marked it down as voluntarily separated, and not involving misconduct. That was the word I was groping for.
Right.
So when a disagreement comes up where the public they see they see what's going on, who do they go to? What do they do? What recourse is there?
The only thing we have control, and what we always tell them, is like ultimately whatever that separation says, you've got to be able to stand up to support it. Now, the piece that we do have control over is the section in there dealing with duty to report. That's both in Florida Administrative Code. It's 112703 and 9431395 is the statute. They basically say the same thing, that if there's allegation of misconduct that would be a moral character violation and it's sustained, you have to report that to the commission. Now that we do have jurisdiction, we're always like, look, whatever that's, regardless of what that separation says, if you sustain that as a moral character, it has to come to us. So when they do that, that's what I was saying up there. Our goal is to make sure these cases get up there, because once they go into our repository, that flag, if they're disciplined, if that officer's disciplined, that flag stays on their record. So when that's queried from another agency, if they go to work somewhere else, hey, previous discipline.
A lot of these are
from the
Brady,
company.
these are Brady violations.
Right. Right. Which that's a state attorney. Each circuit views the Brady list.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different by circuit. It is. And I know there's been some legislative initiatives on dealing with that. So
I mean, I have to imagine who pursues. Is it FDLE that would pursue a charge of perjury?
Yeah, that's because, like you said, you've seen the form. It talks about it being a misdemeanor. In order, the state attorney's the one that has the jurisdiction as far as pursuing criminal charges. So that's what it would take, is in all likelihood, if it's an agency head, it would be, we've got our Office of Executive Investigations or some other entity to investigate that, to establish whether or not there's a criminal predicate with it.
There probably has to be intent for the chief, and
that's the whole thing, is the intent behind it. Even for us as administrative charges, we have to demonstrate the intent behind it. And a lot of times, especially if you get into a larger agency, the intent, establishing that, because it goes, it's not just the sheriff up here, several levels in between, and establishing there is an intent to intentionally falsify that document. That's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. But no, to Chief Asia's point, I mean, we see it a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, our goal is to get the case.
He brings a chilling argument to it, because I mean, it not only affects the public in a negative light, but you're allowing him to transfer, him or her, whoever, to transfer agencies with, under the.
That's what I was saying about the flag. And again, we don't control who agencies hire, but they've got the information, or they've got a pointer to it saying, hey, there was discipline. You need to reach out to staff, us, in Tallahassee, and find out as part of your background investigation. So that flag, that's all we can do as far as that goes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there aren't agencies that hire individuals who've had cases before the commission. I'd be lying to you if I told you that. But our goal, again, like I said, to get that case in front of the commission. That's where we do exercise control over that and have the ability to.
So, is there an avenue for an independent journalist to come to FDLE and say, hey, I'm seeing this form. It looks like it's been filled out completely wrong. Is this? Can you guys look at this? Do you work off tips? Do you relook at these?
We don't have investigative authority. First of all, to investigate, and what that would be is an allegation of misconduct on the part of a sworn officer, i.e. the agency administrator. So that would be, my staff, I've got a staff of 8 that works these cases, so we do not have investigative authority to look at that.
So, listening to what I'm saying, do you see a recourse? Is there recourse for the public?
The only recourse is through our verifiable complaint process. Again, because I'm speaking to you administratively now, is if a verifiable complaint, you send your name, contact information, where we can verify that the complainant with the allegation. In this case, you falsified this affidavit, you send that to us. Now, our process on verifiable complaints is to submit that to the agency to investigate it, and if it's sustained, to report. That's the process, and I get it all the time. Well, that's the fox guarding the hen house kind of thing, if you will.
That's chilling in and of itself.
Administratively, that is the process.
Because you're accusing the top person in that department, and then the top person in the department is then gonna investigate themselves.
Now, we have had instances, and they're rare, where we've been able to take a case that was looked at criminally, where state attorney may have looked at it and null-pros the case.
Yeah, this is one of those cases.
And we get that case and we pursue it administratively based on that criminal investigation. Those are rare. We don't see a whole lot of those, but we have had, and in some instances, agency hits with that. But those are very, very few and far between, as you might imagine, because it involves having to get an agency that's investigating them criminally, and it just doesn't occur a whole lot. But there is some recourse, and I certainly see your concern, and it's a concern to us with the separation.
I started my arm of activism because I didn't, I saw these things and I thought they can't possibly be like this. They can't possibly be this bad. This is all for show. And then I get into it a little bit and I'm like, I need to take a step back. Wow, some of this stuff is true.
Sure.
And I mean, it's very chilling to somebody that really believes in the Constitution.
Yeah.
And
no, I understand the concern, obviously, but it's kind of where we're at with the process. Ultimately, it does lie with the agency head to be able to stand behind that. We see it a good bit when administrators change hands, especially when new sheriffs comes in. If they're ever looking at, hey, maybe this separation says this. What if because we have had instances where separations do get changed. But again, if that's the agency asking for that, we always advise, it's like, especially when it's a change of administration, it's like, I wouldn't touch that. I'd leave it alone. If that's how that separation stood prior to you coming in, I wouldn't do it. And again, it's guidance.
Either way.
And it's
Either
advice.
way,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I said, if whoever, whether it was a sheriff or a chief, if that was the ultimate decision on that once it went through the process, I would leave it alone if it was me. Okay. There'd have to be very compelling evidence. I mean, just something totally 180 degrees contrary to what was in there for me to jump in there and change something. And again, that's advisement and guidance that we give when we're asked that question.
Okay.
It's not perfect. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's not. And again, we do see some of those same things with those separations. My goal is to make sure we're getting those cases up there so those flags are set.
So it can be seen either way.
Yeah, and so we're trying, the whole gypsy cop, you've probably seen that.
It's a huge
terminology.
concern. Yeah.
Absolutely it is. So
because that's the supposed bad apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Let me give you my card.
I appreciate that,
if you wanna
Mr. Hopkins.
Talk any time. I'm willing to talk with you more.
Yeah, I just want to see the law enforcement as it was intended. You know what I mean? And I mean, hopefully we can all want the same thing.
Oh, sure.
All right. Well, I'm Foshin.
Okay. Glen Hopkins, good to meet you. Yes,
Very
sir.
good to meet you. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Reach out anytime.
Thank you very
Yes, sir.
much. You have a good day, all right?
Dr. too.
Pardon me, sir. Do you work for law enforcement?
I work for the FDLE.
Do you have a card?
No, I do not.
What was your name?
Terry Baker.
Terry Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take a picture of me for some reason?
I did not take a picture of you, no, sir.
You did not? Okay. What was the name one more time?
Terry Baker.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're out here today to ensure our natural rights are respected by those who swore an oath to support, protect, and defend the rights of the people. The purpose of all interactions is to peacefully promote government accountability and transparency. Please like, share, and subscribe so this message can reach as many people as possible. I implore you to peacefully seek redress to any and all of your grievances. This is a public service.